Her rent is paid. Her bills are covered. She has money in savings. And the coat is not even unusually expensive. But she stands in front of the mirror for 10 minutes, looking for a reason to put it back. Too impractical. Too indulgent. Not necessary. 2 days earlier, she spent more than that on a gift for someone she loves and felt completely comfortable doing it. But when the money is for her, something changes. The purchase no longer feels like a simple exchange. It feels like evidence against her character. Am I being irresponsible? Am I becoming selfish? What if I need this money later? What would my family think? So Julie puts the coat back. She walks out with the money still at her account, and a strange sense of relief. From the outside, this looks like discipline. But discipline is choosing not to buy something because it conflicts with your priorities. Guilt is believing that spending on yourself makes you a worse person. And those are not the same thing. So, why can some people spend generously on everyone around them, yet feel almost ashamed when they spend on themselves? The answer is not simply that they are careful with money. It is that, somewhere along the way, money stopped being only money. It became safety, duty, love, sacrifice, control, and proof of whether they deserve to take up space. This is the psychology of why some people feel guilty spending money on themselves. Every purchase has two prices. The first is written on the label. The second is emotional. Researchers sometimes describe this emotional cost as the pain of paying, the discomfort people experience when giving up money. Everyone feels it differently. For some people, paying is a small interruption between wanting something and owning it. For others, it feels like a warning signal. Their mind does not only calculate, "Can I afford this?" It asks, "Will I regret this? Will I become unsafe? Does buying this prove I lack control?" That is why two people with the same income can react completely differently to the same purchase. One sees a $50 dinner and thinks, "That will be enjoyable." The other sees the same dinner and mentally converts it into groceries, electricity, medicine, school fees, or several future emergencies that have not happened. The dinner is no longer competing with another meal. It is competing with safety itself. And when a personal purchase is framed as pleasure rather than necessity, the pain can become even stronger. A replacement laptop for work may feel acceptable. A weekend away may feel irresponsible. A medical appointment may be justified. A massage may feel selfish. The difference is not always the cost. It is permission. Some people have learned that spending is morally acceptable only when it is productive, necessary, or for somebody else. But nobody is born believing that. Money beliefs are learned long before most people earn money of their own. A child hears adults say, "We cannot waste money." She notices the tension when a bill arrives. She watches a parent deny themselves something small, then proudly say, "Everything is for the children." She hears another adult criticized for spending too much. None of these moments needs to be dramatic. Repeated often enough, they become rules. Good people sacrifice. Responsible people always prepare for the worst. Wanting something for yourself is dangerous. Comfort must be earned. And a rule learned in childhood can survive long after the original situation has disappeared. Julie may no longer live in the home where money was tight. She may earn more than her parents ever did. Her spreadsheet may show that she is safe. But her nervous system is still responding to the old house. This is one of the most important distinctions in financial psychology. Your current bank balance and your internal sense of financial safety are not always synchronized. Scarcity trains attention toward what could go wrong. When money has once been unpredictable, the mind becomes skilled at scanning for risk. That ability can be useful. It can produce planning, patience, and resilience. But it can also remain switched on when the immediate danger is gone. Then every optional purchase feels like opening a door to catastrophe. The thought is not, "This costs $100. The thought is, "This is how it starts." One purchase becomes careless spending. Careless spending becomes lost savings. Lost savings becomes dependence. And dependence becomes the exact life the person worked so hard to escape. In seconds, a coat has become a threat to an entire identity. But scarcity is only one part of the story. For many people, especially those raised in families where collective needs came before individual wants, money also becomes a measure of loyalty. Keeping money for yourself can feel like withholding love. Buying for your parents feels meaningful. Paying for a sibling feels responsible. Covering the group bill feels generous. But using the same money for your own comfort can trigger guilt because there is always someone else who could use it. This creates an impossible standard. There will always be another need, another bill, another relative, another future emergency. If personal spending is allowed only after every other possible need has been solved, permission never arrives. The person becomes financially available to everyone except themselves. And because other people often praise this pattern, it can be difficult to recognize. They are called selfless, dependable, the one who never asks for anything. But sometimes I do not need anything is not contentment. It is a survival role. If your value in a family came from being useful, low maintenance, or responsible, spending on yourself can feel like breaking character. Receiving may feel harder than giving. Rest may feel harder than work. And enjoyment may need a justification before it is allowed. That is why some people do not simply buy what they want. They build a legal case for it. They wait for a birthday. They call it an investment. They promise to work harder afterward. They choose the cheapest version, even when it will not last. Or they hide the purchase, not because it harmed the budget, but because being seen enjoying their own money feels embarrassing. This is where guilt becomes connected to self-worth. Some people believe they must achieve enough, suffer enough, or care for enough people before they deserve comfort. But the finish line keeps moving. After this deadline, after this promotion, after the children are older, after the family is secure, after the next savings target, the future self is always allowed to live. The present self is only allowed to prepare. And this can create a strange financial contradiction. The person may save carefully, avoid debt, and appear completely responsible, yet still have an unhealthy relationship with money. Because financial health is not only the ability to avoid overspending, it is also the ability to use money deliberately without panic, secrecy, or shame. Underspending has costs too. Someone delays replacing painful shoes and creates a health problem. They keep unreliable equipment and lose hours of work. They refuse experiences they deeply value, then spend years saying, maybe later. They buy the cheapest option repeatedly and pay more over time. Or they become resentful because everyone benefits from their generosity while their own needs remain invisible. Saving money is valuable, but saving is supposed to protect a life, not postpone it indefinitely. Now, this does not mean every guilty feeling should be ignored. Sometimes guilt is information. If a purchase means missing rent, adding expensive debt, or abandoning an important goal, discomfort may be correctly identifying a conflict. The question is not, do I feel guilty? The question is, what exactly is the guilt protecting me from? There are two very different answers. The first is a real financial consequence. The second is an old rule. A real consequence can be measured. Will the bills still be paid? Will I take on debt? Will this delay a priority I consciously chose? An old rule sounds different. People like me should not spend this way. I should give this money to someone else. I have not worked hard enough to deserve it. Something bad will happen if I relax. One is a budget decision. The other is a belief about worthiness wearing the clothes of a budget decision. So, how does someone change this without becoming careless? Not by forcing themselves to make one large purchase. That often creates more anxiety and regret. The goal is not to become a spendthrift. The goal is to make spending intentional instead of morally charged. First, create a category for personal enjoyment before the month begins. Not whatever is left. A defined amount. When that money has already been assigned, the decision changes from am I allowed to is this how I want to use it? Second, separate cost from value. Cheap is not automatically responsible, and expensive is not automatically wasteful. A purchase can be worthwhile because it saves time, prevents pain, supports work, strengthens a relationship, or creates an experience you genuinely value. Third, Notice the language that appears before you put something back. Is it about mathematics or morality? This would exceed my budget is mathematics. I am selfish for wanting this is morality. The first helps you decide. The second attacks your identity. And finally, practice with purchases small enough that your nervous system can learn something new. Buy the better meal you deliberately budgeted for. Replace the item you use every day. Take the class that makes your work easier. Then allow the purchase to exist without punishing yourself afterward. No extra work to earn it back. No hiding the receipt. No apologizing for having a need. That is how the internal rule begins to change. Not through one dramatic act, but through repeated evidence that a planned purchase does not create disaster. Julie eventually buys the coat, not because she suddenly stops caring about money, and not because she proves the coat is necessary. She buys it because her bills are covered, her savings plan remains intact, and she decides that enjoying something is allowed to be one of money's purposes. The guilt still appears at the checkout, but this time, she recognizes it. It is not a prediction. It is an echo. And an echo does not have to make the decision. Because the opposite of financial guilt is not reckless spending. It is financial permission, the ability to save for tomorrow without treating today as undeserving. Subscribe and we'll meet you in the next video with more facts about the psychology behind your money.